As modern scholars decipher these unusual manuscripts, the differences become clear. Every page suggests a rethinking of what we know about Jesus Christ. For the first time, we follow in the footsteps of Christ the child, and even the rebellious young teenager. Experts believe these texts are authentic ancient documents, but what they mean may be challenged forever. Every lost text about Jesus is filled with surprises. One manuscript, the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, is a startling collection of tales showing an immature child wielding supernatural powers.
The Infancy Gospel of Thomas begins with a scene with Jesus by a stream playing in the water and in the mud.
Jesus, playing in the mud, shows himself to be this creator, much as God himself played in the mud in Genesis and created the first human being.
But at the riverbank, Jesus doesn't form Adam in his own image. He creates something completely different.
He starts forming some sparrows out of the mud. And as he's doing this, a Jewish man walks by and sees what he's doing and gets upset because it's the Sabbath day. So Jesus is violating the Sabbath. He's working on the Sabbath. This is, of course, foreshadowing what's going to happen later on in his life when he gets into these controversies over Sabbath observance. Well, the man runs off to tell Jesus' father what he's done, and Joseph comes into the scene, and he sees his son there. He sees these sparrows made out of the mud, and he gets angry and says, "Jesus, what have you done? You violated the Sabbath."
Jesus responds by clapping his hands, and the clay pigeons take flight and fly away.
It is the first miracle described in this gospel, a story meant to illustrate the mystical, godlike abilities within Jesus the child.
He's destroyed all evidence of malfeasance. And so it shows that Jesus can create life, so that he, in fact, has divine power in him, and it resolves the problem of him working on the Sabbath, that he, in fact, is the Lord of the Sabbath, even as a 5-year-old boy.
What comes next in the Infancy Gospel of Thomas is almost beyond belief. This gospel claims the Son of God is capable of taking life.
He has a temper, kind of a bad temper. And when Jesus gets mad, watch out, because he's got some real wallop in his temper.
According to this text, Jesus cripples the young son of the man who complained about Jesus violating the Sabbath, saying,
"You also shall be like a tree without root and not bear fruit." And the child then withers in his presence. The child's parents come and kind of carry the withered one away, bemoaning his lost youth, wondering what kind of child is this who can curse somebody like this.
This gospel relates other unsettling incidents about the young Jesus, a boy who is not only powerful, but quick to anger.
As Jesus is walking through the street in his hometown, Nazareth, and another child accidentally bumps into his shoulder, and this irritates Jesus. He turns to the kid and says, "You'll go no further on your way."
The Infancy Gospel claims the boy struck by Jesus falls to the ground, dead.
Why would Christians want to portray Jesus as violent, as somebody who killed people or withered people? And I'm not sure that there's a good answer to it.
Some experts believe this darker portrayal of Christ comes from the struggle to comprehend the infinite power of a divine being, especially one that walks the streets as a young boy. It's important to note, Jesus had died only a few generations before these texts were written. The world's memory of him was still fresh, and the need to understand his life was that much more powerful.
It's a Jesus of 2nd and 3rd century Christian imagination, because we want to know, what was Jesus like anyway when he was little? Jesus is the Son of God. He's all powerful and he's all knowledgeable. So what was he like as a child?
Gospels really don't tell you much about that. You know, did he experiment with his powers till he got it right?
Is the infancy gospel of Thomas trying to show us an early version of the Jesus who would return on Judgment Day?
In traditional Christian theology, of course, people who don't accept Jesus and who are on his bad side are going to be withered and killed and destroyed when Jesus comes back in judgment. And so there's a foreshadowing of that already as a 5-year-old.
Perhaps envisioning Jesus the child as Jesus the final judge is one way to urge readers toward a more devout reverence of God.
But they may be trying to convey a point about how serious it is, what your relationship to Jesus is, that in fact it matters how you treat this child and how you deal with him.
At least 3 times in the infancy gospel of Thomas, young Jesus performs the same miracle he later does as an adult. He raises the dead. The first incident comes when Jesus' playmate, Zenon, falls from a roof. The people of Nazareth, already afraid of this violent Jesus, mistakenly believe he killed the boy.
There's Zenon down on the ground, and Zenon's parents walk up right at that second. They see their dead child, they see Jesus on the roof, they think, he's been doing it again.
They accused Jesus, "Troublemaker, you threw him down." Jesus replied, "I did not throw him down. Rather, he threw himself down. When he was not acting carefully, he leaped off the roof and died."
Well, everybody in the village thinks that Jesus must have done it because he's been smiting the children of the village who annoy him.
Jerusalem, the faithful city, she that was full of justice, has become a harlot. Stop him! Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning?
What are your multitude of sacrifices to me, says the Lord? Bring forth no more burnt offerings. Call the God, the other right.
And you have turned it into a den of thieves!